So namaste everyone. And today is our sixth session in the series of Manav Vyavhar Darshan English translation reading sessions. So we're very, um, I'm very pleased with the progress and the way the things have been going. Uh, in fact, I was very pleasantly surprised that one of my friend used to we worked together for 15, 20 years. And he has been listening to this and he got very much interested into this. So much so that he's visiting me on this Saturday that says that, oh, I want to actually ask you some questions. And it was very pleasantly surprised to actually listen to him after many years. So I'm sure that you are also enjoying wherever you are these sessions. Let's see this exercise as our collaborative study kind of experience. We are, the very fact that we are actually studying Madhyas Darshan and talking in English, that itself actually is in a way making a bridge to for the English speaking world to Madhyas Darshan, right? So in this process, what we are doing is we will be reading the translation that I have prepared and it has been peer reviewed and we will actually read that and there would be presenters. There are presenters who are going to read it and share their understanding. So the presenters are not necessarily the people who have actually been involved in writing or reviewing this work, but they are the people who have been involved with Madhyas Darshan and have its understanding, right? So it is this understanding that they will be sharing along with reading the station, right? So in this series today, we are having Drishta. Drishta started the session in the last week, and now she will continue from the point where we had. So, Drishta, welcome again, and please lead us from here.
Namaste. Thank you, Mama. And hello, everyone. I think I'll just share my screen and then we can get back to where we had left off. Is it visible?
Yes, it is visible. It's good.
Okay. So yes, last week we were discussing this, the author's note that was written by Nagraji, by Baba, in which he started talking about how human behavior and basically human collectives and how humans have existed in the form of collectives or associations since we emerged. And ever since then, there's been this desire, this wish for harmony among the collectives that exist. We have hoped for getting along, we have hoped for justice, we've desired resolution and prosperity, and we've desired coexistence. But for the reasons that he's described here, we have actually been unable to achieve that. And a major cause for that, as he's described, that we discussed last time, was these inequalities that emerged as a natural consequence. As not as a natural consequence. There are naturally existent differences in humans, but because of those, we ended up also faced with inequalities that emerged from those differences. And those inequalities, in combination with a sort of universal tendency of humans to want some sort of universality, that has resulted in a severe lack of harmony, actually, and a lot of struggle among humans, which is visible for us even today. It's been visible forever. It's only the scale that has been going up. So then here he's saying that this thirst that has existed for harmony for all humans across cultures and throughout human history, this proposal that I'm putting before everyone is in order to attain that harmony which has been desired for this all this while. And so he had just started talking about what he understands, how he is seeing harmony really, and how he is seeing coexistence. That is where we had left off. So I'll just read that paragraph again, and then we can go ahead. The essence and elaboration of coexistence itself is harmony within oneself. The state of harmony is apparent, that is, understandable in nature as harmony of form, attributes, intrinsic nature, and dharma. It is evident as the emergence of harmony of form in the material order, harmony of attributes in the plant order, and harmony of intrinsic nature in the animal order. Harmony of dharma itself is the basis of indivisibleness of humans in the knowledge order. It is not possible to achieve completeness of harmony within the purview of the other three orders of nature. If that were possible, these would have already attained the satisfaction of knowing and believing in coexistence, but that is not to be seen. Hence, transcendence to the next order is apparent. The possibility of attaining harmony of dharma has become clear only in humans. Its achievement is the ultimate human objective, and Madhyas Darshan aims to make it accessible to all humans. Harmony of dharma means having the comprehensive resolution. So here he's put forth what harmony really means according to how he is seeing existence. So he's saying that we had discussed till the point where he's saying that harmony is apparent as the equality of the form, attributes, intrinsic nature, and dharma of the entities of nature. And we discussed what all of these mean. But we hadn't discussed what really is meant by equality in this. He's saying that basically in Hindi he writes that सामरस्यता की स्थिति रूप गुण स्वभाव एवं धर्म की साम्यता समाधान पर आधारित है. That means it is dependent. So the state of harmony relies upon the equality and the resolution of these four things that are possessed by each entity. Each entity has a form, each entity has properties or attributes, each entity has intrinsic nature, and each entity has a dharma. And harmony depends on the equality of these. So what does he mean by this? He means, what he goes on to elaborate, that you can see that there is this emergence of harmony of form in the material order. And in the plant order, the biological order, you see a harmony of attributes or a harmony of properties. Then in the animal order, you see the harmony at the level of intrinsic nature. And so why is he saying that this is what you see? This is the level at which you see harmony in each of these orders. So if you really look closely at the material order, say if it starts from atoms to the soil, to different minerals and water and all these different gemstones and things like that in nature, this is all part of the material order. When you look at it carefully, you notice that when we recognize the units of the material order, we recognize them on the basis of their structure, on the basis of their form, whether that structure is at the level of their atomic structure or their molecular structure, or the structure in which they are visible to us at the macro level with our eyes. That is the level at which we are able to recognize them quite easily. And not just us, all of nature also interacts with the material order based on these structures. That is why it's called the form. So two atoms, when they come together, they're able to combine with each other based on their configuration. Similarly, if we look at molecular structures, especially like in when we study chemistry and biology, we notice that a lot of molecules are not only the configuration of the atoms that are together, but also the way in which they are kind of placed in space. So whether the molecule is straight or if it's curly or if it's curved. So all those structures determine how they interact with other units of the material order. So that becomes the basis on which all of the rest of existence is able to identify and interact or relate with the units of the material order. So, and why is that so? It is because it is at the level of structure that you find great complete definiteness in the material order. So if you see the atom of the carbon atom, so that is one species of the material order, is the carbon atom. It has a very definite structure, which is identical across all species of carbon atoms. But the structure of the oxygen atom is very different. But you know that the structure of all other oxygen atoms is going to be identical. And so it is at this level that you find um, the sameness in the material order, at the level of structure, at the level of form. And that is why, because that is what is definite and recognizable and reliable in the material order, that is at the level at which everything is able to interact with it. Then if you look at the plant order, if we start trying to identify individual units of the plant order based on form, we find that it is quite difficult, because even two leaves on the same tree can look very different. Although there is some element of similarity, there is a lot of difference also, and between two members of the same species of plant also you will see some differences, and those differences are in a sort of continuum actually. So, but what you can really rely upon in the plant order, in the biological order, is the fact that the properties of one member, of the members of one species are going to be the same. So all neem trees will be able to cure certain diseases that we have recognized, or all curry patta plants will be able to do the same, or all even amoeba, they're also biological order, although they're not plants. They will have similar properties, although their forms keep changing all the time. So there is the basis on which anything relies, uh, the basis on which anything depends or relates to the elements of the plant order, the biological order, are their properties. So other plants recognize that this is the property of my neighbor, and this is how I'm going to interact with it. And that is what is done by all members of the biological order. And animals also interact with the plant order or the biological order based on the properties of the plants. They are able to depend on it because that is definite, and definite means that it is the same across all members of its species. Then in the material order, there is sameness or definiteness at the level of the intrinsic nature of the particular species. So whether it's a particular dog or a cat or a cow, we can take any example. Their form will be different. Each dog looks different from other dogs, and their properties might also be different. Some puppies of the same litter are shyer than the others, and they're more extroverted or introverted or whatever. But their intrinsic nature is still going to be the same. They will still behave as dogs do, or as lions do, or as cows do, whichever animal we might take. And that is the basis on which other animals interact with those animals. The deer recognizes a lion as a lion, not as this particular lion or that particular lion, and interacts with it accordingly. Similarly, plants also interact with animals. Well, plants still interact with animals at the level of properties, because the lower form can only interact at the level at which it is able to interact. So plants are interacting with everything at the level of properties only. But humans can also interact with animals at the level of their intrinsic nature. And with plants, by recognizing, we can understand animals by their intrinsic nature, we can understand plants by their properties, and we can understand material by their structures. But then what we see, he says, that there is harmony in each of these orders at these levels. So in the material order, there is harmony at the level of form, because there is a definiteness and a sameness of form across within the species. Then there is harmony of properties or attributes in the biological order because of that definiteness and sameness at the level of properties. And similarly, there is harmony at the level of intrinsic nature in animals because of that definiteness and sameness. But For humans, none of these are sufficient. We need, for humans, it is only the harmony at the level of dharma which can lead to indivisibleness or unity in human society, which is what we had started out with from the beginning of this section. We've been seeking harmony among humans. We've been seeking unitedness and this feeling of connectedness among humans, this lack of us and them among humans. But we have not been able to achieve that. And that is because we have not achieved harmony at the level of dharma in humans, and that is the only way that such coexistence or unitedness or indivisibleness or harmony is possible among humans. So then that begs the question, what is this harmony of dharma? Um, Now, and also then that question remains, that is answered towards the end of this paragraph. But then he also goes on to say that this state of harmony of dharma in humans is the completeness of harmony in existence. That means the harmony that we see in the material order, it is harmony. And the harmony that we see in the biological order, that is also harmony. And the harmony we see in the animal order, that is also harmony. But none of these harmonies are complete. So, what is complete harmony, and why is it only achievable at the level of humans and even in humans of the knowledge order? Why is it only possible within the harmony of dharma? Are the questions that sort of arise. And how I understand it is that um, when you look at the material plant or animal orders, you can see that everything is well regulated, well balanced. So in that sense, there is some sort of, there is some sustainability because there is some regulation and balance among them. But there are also, they're very limited. This balance or this regulation is very limited or constrained by the environmental conditions. So if the environmental conditions change, the system is not able to maintain that harmony. Then that system needs to sort of break down and change and adapt. And then again, of course, it reforms a certain new type of harmonious balance, but it takes that whole process of deformation and then regeneration to kind of re-identify how to position each element with another. It's like if, for example, we can look at climate change and how ecological niches are being affected by that. And this is not the first time climate is changing. It's of course the one of the most terrible and one of the most human-caused situations of climate change. But this has happened several times throughout the history of the planet, where certain ecological changes suddenly face major change in that environment, and then the whole ecology of that area changes. So the who is going to be the primary predator and the secondary predator and the primary producers and how they're going to relate with each other, all of that kind of changes, and it needs to kind of re-establish its dynamic. And what we do see is that those dynamics do get re-established. So that means there is a tendency towards harmony and balance, but it is a whole breakdown that occurs before that can be re-established. And humans have observed this in nature, and that is why we see philosophies in several traditions that talk about the cyclical nature of existence, and that humans must also, human society will also build up and reach a sort of pinnacle, and then it will have to break down and then have to re-emerge. But that is not a very reassuring or satisfying worldview to have. It actually, it instills a sort of insecurity and anxiety if you look at the world that way. Because although that is happening in the material and the plant and the animal world, humans don't want this degeneration and regeneration. Humans want continuity of harmony. We want a completeness of harmony which is completely sustainable and completely continuous. And that is only possible, he's saying. I mean, it is first he's saying that that is possible. And then he's saying, but it is only possible in the knowledge order, and it is only possible in the knowledge order when there is harmony of dharma. If it were possible in the previous orders, then it would have already happened. Then there would have been no need for the human beings to emerge. But we have emerged. And he's saying the possibility of attaining this harmony has become clear in humans. And I think the first testimony to that is our desire for such harmony. The fact that we want it, that this sort of uh, what is considered the cyclicality of generation and degeneration does not satisfy us. So we keep seeking and working towards some sort of continuity. That I think is the first testimony that it is possible. Because if it were not possible and humans had this natural desire, then that would have been a very unstable, unbalanced sort of natural order where there is a need which has no possibility of fulfillment. So there is this need for continuity of harmony and completeness of harmony, regardless of the environment. A harmony in which no matter what happens in the outside environment, we remain stable and together and undivided and coherent. Um, and that is therefore the ultimate achievement, the ultimate human objective. And that is what also is what Madhya Darshan aims to make accessible for everyone. And then finally, after all of this, he says, what is this harmony of dharma that he had referred to earlier? Harmony of dharma, he says, means having comprehensive resolution. So what this implies is that human beings can achieve this complete harmony, this completely stable and continuous harmony, and indivisibleness or togetherness among humankind through comprehensive resolution. Because it is this comprehensive resolution that is the human dharma. Dharma is, as we had discussed yesterday also, dharma is that attribute, you could say, of an entity that cannot be separated from it. That means that is it, that is what defines it, that is what makes it what it is. That is what also defines its position or relevance in existence. So for humans, the human dharma, as we will discuss in the coming chapters also, human dharma is happiness. If a human does not, this the is the desire for happiness. If humans do not desire happiness, then they're no longer human. That means they have become completely hopeless. If they're no longer seeking happiness, then they have become completely hopeless, and that is the moment at which we choose to cease to remain in the human form. So all humans, universally and throughout time, have sought happiness. That is the human dharma. Just like all animals, the dharma of all animals is this will to live. All animals have always, throughout time, desired to live. Similarly, for humans, it is this desire for happiness, this hope of for happiness, actually. And this happiness, when we actually go about understanding what happiness is, that he has described as the state of internal clarity or resolution, the state in which we have complete clarity internally on why, on the whys and the hows of any situation that may arise before us. So it is that internal state of coherence, of integrity and clarity that itself is happiness. And that internal state is achieved through comprehensive understanding. So this internal, so the human dharma is happiness. Happiness is complete internal clarity, or you could say it is complete, it is internal or comprehensive resolution. And that comprehensive resolution comes from comprehensive understanding. And so it is only with this comprehensive resolution that comes from comprehensive understanding that we can all be harmonious. So this comprehensive resolution is dharma. So harmony of dharma is harmony in our comprehensive resolution or harmony in our comprehensive understanding. That means we all share the same comprehensive understanding of existence. That is a possibility for humankind, and that is also the capacity of humankind, and that is also what is desirable to all of us if we really look at it. We all wish to be able to see with each other. You know, when we come in agreement on anything, it feels good. It very naturally feels good. And if, no matter how much we may say that to each their own or you do you, what actually really always feels good is when we are in agreement, even if that agreement is on this tenet of to each their own. So I find that quite interesting that we can see the evidence of this possibility in our everyday living. And that is the ultimate achievement, not only of our individual selves, but also of humankind. and also of harmony in existence as a whole. This shared understanding, the shared seeing, and therefore the shared living, that is what our capacity is. And then, based because this understanding is within us, no matter how the environment might change, our comprehensive understanding will allow us to be able to correspond to any sort of environment. Okay, it's the situation has changed this way. We know what is valuable, we know what is worth doing and what the purpose of our coming together is, so we'll do it in this way then. Or if the situation changes another way, then we can do the same thing in another way. If we understand the meaning and purpose, that is, we have comprehensive understanding of all meaning and purpose, then we have the ability to be freed of the constraints of our environment and to correspond to any sort of environment that might emerge. So this is how I understand this paragraph. Then he concludes, may human life be successful, may there be balance in the rest of nature. A. Nagraj. So may human life be successful. How we can understand that is that the success of the human life is in attaining this sort of pinnacle of harmony, this completeness of harmony. And that he has also elaborated actually in its sequence. And that is the human goal, which is first there is resolution, then there's prosperity, then there is this indivisibility or fearlessness in society, and then there is coexistence at the planetary level. These are the 4 stages of accomplishing complete harmony that humans are capable of and that humans are seeking. So may that be successful, and may there be balance in the rest of nature. And so this is what human success in human life is. And for the rest of nature, may there be balance, because that is how the rest of nature does already exist. It is in a balanced form. So that is his wish for all of us. Another point. Sorry.
I just said wonderful. Beautiful.
Yeah. This is, I really like how he ends each section. It really sums up the essence of the entire section in such a beautiful way. Actually, another thing that actually comes to my attention from this section is that if you look at the diversity also, there's so much diversity in the material orders, in the number of species that exist, not only in the number of elements, but also the forms that they take on. So like you can find carbon in so many forms and oxygen in so many forms and molecules, and there's just so many specific configurations or arrangements with their definite structure and their definite participation. That is the diversity of the material order, which is so vast. And then if you look at the plant order, there is also a whole lot of diversity in the biological order, but relatively it is much less. The number of species, you could say, or within the plant order or the biological order is very large, but much less than the material order. Then the number of species, if you see in the animal order, is also very vast, but much, much less than those found in the biological order. And then we see in the human order, in the knowledge order, there is only one, right now, as it exists today, there is biologically one species of human being. But in our attributes, in our behavior, of course, we are very diverse as yet. And that is the kind of diversity in our attributes, in our also our, the form, the might, our appearance, our might, our intellect. There's a lot of diversity in that still. But that diversity is not functional in the way that the diversity of the previous orders was. In the previous orders, all this diversity contributed to some harmony. In the human order, in the knowledge order, this diversity has up till now led to inequalities. So despite our biological species being singular, human species being one, this diversity of our attributes has made us fragmented. And this diversity has not led to unity, which is something that we have hoped for and thought or rather wished might be possible, but it has not been possible as of now. And so it is this unity that we are seeking, and a resolution to this diversity, or the right placement of this diversity that we are seeking, that also the rest of the sections going forward are going to be talking about. Okay. The message. I'd like to read this in Hindi as well, or Sanskrit as well, because it's so beautiful. भूमि स्वर्गताम यातु मनुष्य मानवो यातु देवताम धर्मो सफलताम यातु नित्यम यातु शुभोदयम. May earth become heaven, may humans become gods, may dharma prevail, may goodness arise forever. So this is the wish with which he is placing all of this before us, this entire treaty is before us. That the ultimate goal, or the ultimate desire, is for earth itself to become like heaven. And we've imagined heaven in various ways up till now and in various places. But he's saying, may earth become heavenly. May earth itself be the heaven that we've been seeking. And we have thought of gods also in different ways, and imagined them to be different types of entities. But here he is saying that may humans themselves become gods. That means whatever, we will also go on to discuss what it means when he says this, that may humans become gods, but may they become the ones who are basically the nurturers and the conservers and the protectors and the guides for one another and for everything. That's the kind of attribute that most people have ascribed to, well, gods is the only word we can use in English, but in Hindi there's a difference between God and devata, or maybe deities is a good word. Someone who protects and nurtures and takes care of. So may humans be those entities that become godlike or gods. May dharma prevail. And as we discussed, dharma is, for humans, dharma is happiness or comprehensive resolution, or which is what results in comprehensive harmony. So may that happiness or resolution or harmony prevail, and may goodness arise forever. And if all three of these happen, that is what is goodness in itself. And may that goodness arise forever. May there be a continuity of that goodness. So that is his wish. That is his the goal he is setting for all of humankind also in that sense. Then, humans found on Earth, which is a part of the infinite cosmos in the omnipresent space, are incredibly fortunate to have the golden opportunity and means to study and experiment with development and decline in existence. So there's a lot going on in this sentence. He's saying the humans that are currently found on this planet Earth are incredibly fortunate. And also to contextualize it, the humans found on this Earth are found on one planet, in one galaxy, within the several infinite galaxies in this entire universe. So within that huge context, the humans found in the present are extremely fortunate. Why are we extremely fortunate? It is because we have the golden opportunity and the means. So we have both opportunity and means to do what? To study and experiment with. So study is a process that happens internally, and experimentation is our external process of trying to live out what we have understood. So to study and experiment, and what is it that we're studying and experimenting? We have the opportunity and means to study and experiment either development or decline. Actually, development and decline in existence. So basically, this means we have the choice. We can choose to study and experiment with what development is, and also we have the choice to study and experiment with what decline is. Vikas evam hras. So these are the two only possible directions in existence, in which basically first he's postulating that there is directionality in existence. So that means there is a direction towards more completeness, and therefore there is a direction towards less completeness. And we have that golden opportunity and means to study both or either of them. So that is why it kind of gives us this beautiful outlook also, that we are so fortunate, but it also gives us a very um, uh, stark mirror as to what we are doing in each moment. In each moment, we are constantly choosing to study and experiment either with development or with decline in existence. Because in each moment, we are taking decisions, and any decision that we take will either be in the realm of our internal understanding and reflection and thought, or it will be in the external realm of what we choose to do with our mind, body, and resources. So the external is all kinds of experimentation, and the internal is all kinds of study. And so in each moment that we take a decision, we are taking the decision to either study and experiment with development, trying to understand what development in existence is, or we are choosing to study and experiment with decline in existence. So that is something we must, this is a perspective on every single decision that we take as humans on this planet in the present, that exist in the midst of this vast universe. That is the true context of anything that we do. So this is, he's first setting forth the context of everything that we each of us do in every moment. And then he goes on to say, because this actually, when we realize, when we kind of see what he means by this, the first question that emerges is then, okay, what is this development and what is this decline? If that is what I'm choosing in each moment, then at least I need to understand what this development and decline is. So for that sort of evaluation, that would be a sort of evaluation that we must do. And that is what he goes on to talk about. Abhyuday, or comprehensive resolution, is inspiring everyone everywhere. Evaluate yourself, then you will not make mistakes or commit crimes, and as a result, you will never be miserable, oppressed, or poor. So here he's setting forth what is really decline and what is development. Abhyuday is a word in Hindi, which maybe roughly we can say it's something like flourishing or flourishment. So that the notion of flourishment, or the reality that is flourishment, which for humans means comprehensive resolution. And we all have that universal thirst or need for comprehensive resolution because it is a possibility. So that thirst and that possibility is constantly inspiring everyone everywhere. That evaluate yourself, then you will not make mistakes or commit crimes. That means if we evaluate ourselves, if only we evaluate ourselves, we will no longer make mistakes and commit crimes. And it is, if we don't make mistakes and commit crimes, then we will no longer be miserable, then we will no longer be oppressed, and then we will no longer be poor. So this is a pretty powerful statement, because often we feel in social discourse, we often believe that the state of misery and oppression and being poor is something that is beyond our control. And of course, to a large extent, it is beyond our control because we don't know how to deal with it. And anything that we don't know how to deal with, that is beyond our control. But he's saying that it is comprehensive resolution that allows one to be freed from any sort of misery, oppression, or impoverishment. That means when we have comprehensive resolution, we will know how to deal with interpersonal relationships. We will know how to deal in social situations, and we will know how to deal in the largest planetary level with justice, with um, uh, principles, and with truth in a fulfilling way that is fulfilling for everyone. And because that is a possibility from comprehensive resolution, that possibility is what allows you to be freed of all misery and oppression or impoverishment in any situation. So the only thing that is keeping us, any individual in particular, from being freed of this is our um, choice to not evaluate ourselves. So yeah, this is quite a a stark statement to make. It is talking about this distinction between freedom and determinism. Is our situation, is our condition something that we can make and create autonomously of our own will, or is it something that is determined, that we have to suffer based on our on where we are born or the situations we face? But here he's saying that it is something that we can control. And how do we control it? We control it by evaluating ourselves. Then, how do we evaluate ourselves? For that, he says, so the following self-evident basic premises would need to be internalized for self-evaluation. So the first of these is, Earth, indivisible nation is one, nations are many. Second, the human race is one, human actions are many. Third, human dharma is one, resolutions are many. Fourth, God is omnipresent, deities are many. Now he's saying, to be freed from all this crimes and mistakes and impoverishment, etc., we need to evaluate ourselves. And in order to evaluate ourselves, first, the basis of any evaluation would require the internalization of certain basic self-evident premises, which are, and those are the ones he's listed here. So once we've internalized these self-evident premises, then we can actually go further and work towards the evaluation. So what are these premises that are self-evident in a way? He says the first is that Earth, this entire planet, is one. It is one indivisible nation. But, or you can say, and that there are several nations. It's a bit tricky to translate in English. In Hindi, it says Bhumi Akhand Rashtra Ek, Rajya Anek. So there are two words, Rashtra and Rajya. And Rashtra traditionally means that whole nation state, whereas Rajya means one governing unit within that state, nation. So he's saying Earth is one nation, but there are multiple sub-parts of that nation. So basically, he means that there all of these Rajya, or you could say provinces or states, there are multiple of those, but they are all integrated into this whole, which is this indivisible nation, which is the Earth. So Earth is one, and within this one singular indivisible Earth, there are several composite provinces of self-governance, you could say. And they also all come together because, as we can see, even today, this may not be how the political system is visible, but even today we can see that the effect of what happens in one country is apparent on all its neighboring countries and also its not so neighboring countries now in our globalized world. So that shows that obviously we are integrated and indivisible in the influence we have on one another, whether or not we choose to accept that or not. We are interdependent, we are integrated as one nation. And if the constituents of that nation are in disharmony, that affects the entirety of the nation. So there is one Earth, but many constituent provinces or states. Then the human race is one and human actions are many. So this is also a clarification of sorts, because we have in history considered there to be several human races, or in particular in India, the word used here is jati, which is also used for caste. So basically both refer to lineages, biological lineages. And there are, we have considered there to be several human categories based on lineage. And based on those categories, we have also historically concluded that because these lineages are different, these races are different, therefore their capacities and their needs and their roles are also different. So we have believed that we differ. There are different types of humans. Some are meant to do this sort of work, others are meant to do the other sort of work, and that is determined on their race. But here he's clarifying that the human race is singular. There is only one human race, although of course there can be many different types of human actions. But that is in no way related to your race because we share the same race. Then the third is human dharma is one and resolutions are many. This is also a clarification because the word dharma, often used as religion or belief system, is considered to be multiplice. So there seem to be multiplicity of religions. So here he's clarifying actually dharma is not our belief system. Dharma is something more intrinsic and we share that as well. All humans have the same dharma, which is happiness. But that happiness, the way it is manifested or the way it is carried out in forms of particular resolutions, those can be many. So there is one shared dharma, but and that dharma is happiness, and we know that happiness itself is comprehensive resolution. But the resolutions that we may choose to act out in our living, they can be of many kinds. For instance, nutrition is a common human need. We understand that due to comprehensive resolution, we can all understand and recognize what nutrition means. That means what is good health for the human body. We can all understand that. But how we choose to fulfill that can vary. For a certain geographical situation, we'll choose to eat certain things. For a certain time of year, we'll choose to eat different things. So there are different resolutions for the same basic need or purpose. And that is what is meant by human dharma is one, resolutions are many. Um, and that is how also this is in connection with that in freedom from the constraints of the environment. If we have comprehensive resolution, then no matter what the environment may be, we can carry out uh, creative resolutions to fulfill the same purpose, to uphold the same values, because that is shared. Then the fourth basic premise is that God is omnipresent and deities are many. And this is also a clarification of traditionally held beliefs that says that often, even the most well-wishing of statements that emerge from spiritual discourses that God is one, but it has several forms. So they say often say Ishwar ek, Roop anek. But here he's saying actually, it's not that God is one. God is because one is a unit. A unit is limited. He's saying God is not one. God is omnipresent. God is something which, if you want to describe it, you can only say that God is omnipresent. And what you see as many, you can maybe the closest you can come to that is that deities are many. And as he had started out in this message, it is the deities are no one else but resolved humans. Human beings, when they achieve their full potential, they themselves become deities. They themselves become protectors and conservers and guides of harmony and coexistence among humans and with the rest of nature also. So God is not the doer. God is not the one who is enforcing this, taking care of one another. God is omnipresent. It is this other sort of entity, which we will discuss further. Deities can be multiple, and these are all human beings, resolved human beings. So on the basis of these self-evident premises, we can then move towards self-evaluation. So what is it that we will self-evaluate on? That is what the rest of these points are all about. Based on this evaluation, the study of fundamental facts is required. So here he's also putting forth the facts on which we will evaluate ourselves, and also saying that in order to be able to evaluate ourselves on these, we will need to study them. We can't just, without understanding them, we cannot evaluate ourselves on their basis. And for understanding, we will have to study them. So what are these points on which we will evaluate and study? For developing the potential, ability, and receptivity in every human to know humans as a unit in existence and to live thereby. For intactness of coexistence, balance, resolution, fearlessness, and happiness. For becoming capable of living with perseverance towards rightful ownership of wealth, marital faithfulness, and kindness in work and behavior. For developing the well-defined path from inhumanness to humaneness and humaneness to higher humaneness. For fulfilling one's responsibilities in the indivisible society and universal system naturally. For evidencing the desired humane culture and civilization along with their knowledge. For becoming proficient in the law, system, and policy aspects for the development of humane culture and civilization in the nation. So these are all the points on which we must evaluate ourselves, and in order to evaluate ourselves, we must study them. So we can actually look at each of them one by one and see how we stand, where we stand on any of them, whether it's our understanding of what this means or our actual status, in the sense, for instance, the first point says, are developing the potential ability and receptivity in every human to see human beings as a single unit in existence and to live accordingly. So do we have the capacity to be able to see all humans as one? Do we have the ability and do we have the receptivity to see all humans as one? So we evaluate ourselves on that. And in order to do that, we need to understand what this means really. Then second is for the intactness of coexistence, balance, resolution, fearlessness, and happiness. Do we know what all of these mean? And are we capable of ensuring this intactness? Then this capability of living steadfastly with rightful ownership of wealth, marital faithfulness, and kindness in work and behavior. Do we understand what all three of these mean? What is rightful ownership? What is marital faithfulness? What is kindness? Why also? Why are all of these necessary? And then besides understanding them, are we capable of doing this? And we know that this is something that has been desired in several cultures, in several traditions throughout the history of humanity. But what we have been unable to do is be able to build the capability of living this way. So in order to be able to live this way steadfastly, we need to understand what is rightful ownership and why is rightful ownership. Even marital faithfulness, it seems very naturally desirable, but we have not understood what faithfulness is in a marital relationship. And we also haven't understood why. So we keep wondering, going from one belief system about it to another. And of course, we haven't understood what kindness is. What is kindness to a child? What is kindness to your parent? What is kindness to a stranger you meet for the first time? What is kindness to animals? What is kindness to plants? We haven't understood that. And we also have not been able, even if we have some sort of notion of what it might be, we are not able to live up to even our vague notions of that. So this needs to be understood more clearly. Especially, I think, in all of these, when we start to dig deeper into what it really means to be kind, to be faithful, and to have rightful ownership, it really becomes apparent how big of an ask that is. Because in order to be kind, you need to understand the needs of the other and be capable of fulfilling those needs. In order to be faithful to your spouse, you need to be able to understand what it means to be a spouse and what it means to be completely faithful and dedicated. That's a huge ask. And then for rightful ownership of wealth also, we have to understand what wealth is, and how it can be rightful and what is not rightful, and build the capability of producing that. So then developing a well-defined path, I think stress on well-defined path from inhumaneness to humaneness. So this definitely we have not been able to identify, and that is the process. That is why we are studying this to begin with. We don't have any clarity on what that path from inhumaneness to humaneness and then beyond to higher humaneness might be. Fulfilling one's responsibilities in the indivisible society. We've had a lot of discourse on what a citizen's responsibilities are, what a family member's responsibilities are in society and in systems. But really, we have seen that they have not been able to be fulfilled. So that makes us, I think it's an important thing to wonder about what really are each human being's responsibilities in society. And that is something that gets covered in quite a bit of detail in this book. that the responsibility of human beings is first and foremost to be just to one another. Up till now, we've thought of responsibilities and various kinds of activities. Doing this is our responsibility, taking care of that is our responsibility, obeying this is our responsibility. But actually, here he is proposing that responsibility is actually something much more abstract and fundamental than that, and it can be carried out in a variety of activities. So that needs to be understood, and only then can it really be carried out. And only then can it be autonomously carried out rather than imposed from the outside. And then, based on that, we will be able to evidence the desired humane culture and civilization and on the basis of understanding what a desired humane culture and civilization is. And so for that, we also need to evaluate whether we understand and whether we are proficient in the laws and the systems and the policy aspects that are necessary for the development of a humane culture and civilization. And that is also a pretty big ask, because humane would be that which is universally humanly acceptable to everyone. Right now, we see such diversity in this. So what is it that will be universally acceptable? He's saying there is a possibility, and if we study this, we can realize that possibility. To ensure broad accessibility to the aforementioned study, I am delighted to present the first part of Madhyas Darshan, Coexistentialism to the Entire Human Race, under the title Holistic View of Human Behavior, Manav Vyavhar Darshan. So that is what the entirety of this book is about. In order to be able to study all of these points, so that we are able to evaluate ourselves on these, so that we are able to be freed, so that we have comprehensive resolution and can free ourselves and others of any sort of mistakes and crimes and oppression and misery and impoverishment. That is why he's written this book. And then he concludes, Earth itself will become heaven, humans themselves will become gods, dharma will prevail, and goodness alone will arise always. A. Nagraj. So if we're able to do all this, then from that we will be able to achieve that wish that he had set forth in the beginning. Okay. I think I can spend 15 more minutes doing this before we pause, just so that we can cover some more content. Is that
So,
okay?
yeah, this is good. Yeah.
Okay. Basic postulations in Madhyas Darshan. These are the basic points that we must understand, the overview of what this this worldview is proposing, that this is what existence is like. That's what he's setting forth now. Omnipotence is mediative, it is omnipresent. Nature in omnipotence is generative, degenerative, and mediative activities, and it is bounded. Hence, omnipotence is the absolute state. The insentient and sentient nature in omnipotence is the dynamic state. Therefore, nature is contained within omnipotence. Nature is encompassed and filled with omnipotence, making it fully energized and active. Therefore, it has continuous activity of effort, motion, and result. Consequently, nature manifests itself as four orders. Thus, the sentient knowledge order, among the insentient and sentient nature saturated in omnipotence, always has the opportunity to attain the potential, ability, and receptivity for realization. And all the four orders are bonded for completeness and wholeness. So this is basically like a very compressed view of existence. He's saying in existence, there is this entity which we call omnipotence. And this entity, it is mediative and it is omnipresent. So mediative means something which brings balance, which is the cause for balance. That is what is considered to be mediative. And this mediative omnipotence is omnipresent. That means it is everywhere. So just by bringing in the word mediative actually, or balance, it implies a directionality, because there is no balance if there is no positive or negative excitements. Balancing is a value judgment. So basically, from the very first statement, he's saying there is a value, there is a directionality in nature. There is a progress and there is a decline, and then there is something which is mediative, is something that will keep things on the path towards progress. That will keep things balanced and in order. So he's putting forth this view that there is something which is considered to be balanced in existence. And balance is because there is something which is a balancer, which is mediative, and that is omnipotence. Then nature. There are two entities. There is this omnipotence, and then there is nature. Nature in omnipotence is these three kinds of activities. So nature is this other sort of entity in nature, in existence, and how we can recognize it is that it is nature itself is activity, and it is three types of activities. There are activities that are generative, that is things coming together. There are activities that are degenerative, or things breaking apart, and then there are mediative activities that, when things have come together, that keep it staying together over a prolonged period of time. That is the mediative activity. So that is, nature is activity. These activities that is called nature are in omnipotence, which is mediative. And so here we can see that omnipotence is an absolute state, which means that he's saying that it is a complete state. There is a completeness of state, means that a state that never changes, and which also implies that all other states are part of this state. That is the implication of complete state or absolute state. So this omnipotence is an entity which is this complete absolute state. That means this state is so complete, it comprises of all other states, and it is such a state which will never change. So that is what omnipotence is. And then nature, which you can see in the form of insentient nature and sentient nature, placed within this omnipotence, is in dynamic state, which in Hindi it says that it is sthitisheel. That means it is state dynamic. That means it is going from one state to another state to another state to another state. So there is this omnipotence, which is a complete state, and within that is nature, which is constantly going from state to state, which is to say that it is state dynamic. And therefore, we can say that it is contained within this absolute state. It is going from state to state to state because it is within this complete state, which has all states within it. Nature is encompassed and filled with omnipotence, making it fully energized and active. So because it is within omnipotence, it is saturated in omnipotence, it is completely enmeshed in omnipotence. It is therefore, because this is omnipotence, therefore, being within omnipotence makes nature completely energized. And being completely energized is what makes nature active. So therefore, nature is constantly active. And because nature is constantly active, it is what it means to be active, means to be having continuous effort, continuous motion, and continuous results. So here he is defining activity. Activity itself, he is saying, is making an effort. Effort is basically striving in a particular direction. And that striving leads to some motion. And that motion leads to some result. And any result is in the form of a change of structure, change of configuration. That is the result that happens in any activity. And all activity is made up of an eternal state of effort, motion, result, effort, motion, result. So it's because this activity in nature is there because it is saturated and enmeshed in omnipotence. And effort itself kind of indicates to us that there is a direction. Effort is always towards something. And that what it is towards is something that he talks about towards the end. It is towards completeness and wholeness. And because there is this constant activity in nature towards completeness, therefore we see that nature itself manifests as in the form of four orders. So we see that nature starts out in the material order, but then it's constantly active towards completeness. Therefore, it results in the biological order. It is still continuously active towards completeness. So it then manifests as the animal order and finally as the knowledge order. And in this knowledge order, it is the sentient nature which has the opportunity. It is when it enters into the knowledge order that sentient nature gets this opportunity to attain the potential ability and receptivity for complete realization. So that is the whole directionality of effort in existence, that all activity in existence is happening so that nature can manifest knowledge order, and in that knowledge order, the sentient nature can realize. What does it realize is also a good question, but it can have realization. That is what all effort is moving towards. And in this process, all the four orders are completely bonded with one another. All of this is happening for completeness and wholeness. Now, this is, he's saying the directionality is all towards completeness. So what is this completeness becomes the question to be answered, which is what the rest of this section is going to talk about. Omnipotence is mediative. Therefore, the nature saturated in it is regulated and conserved. The nucleus within every atom is the mediative activity, whereby the atom's generative, degenerative activities and relative powers are regulated and conserved. So this is a bit of an elaboration on how this effort, motion, and result leads to the four orders. It is because this nature is saturated in the mediative omnipotence. Therefore, that omnipotence is enacted through the nucleus of each and every atom. It is the nucleus of the atom which has the capacity to act as the mediative activity for its structure. So it is able to balance out any degenerative or generative excitements that might be coming towards it that might have otherwise disrupted its stability. The nucleus is able to mediate that. Why is it able to mediate that? Because it is receiving, it is receptive to the omnipotence, which is mediative. So that is why there is this balance and stability in mediative activities in existence. And the thing that is able to do it is the nucleus in each atom. And therefore, the relative powers and the degenerative and generative activities are regulated and conserved. They're regulated and conserved because the structure is maintained and regulated and conserved. Nature in insentient and sentient forms is the infinite aggregation of all activities. Insentient nature itself attains sentient status upon constitutional completeness, which takes place in the natural course of destiny. Humans are combined forms of insentient and sentient nature. Along with this, they are a part of nature. Now, this is the beginning of the answer to what that completeness is that everything is working towards. So he's saying that nature itself is this aggregation of all activities. So, and we can differentiate, we can categorize activities of nature as either sentient and insentient or sentient. And now he's also saying that it is this the insentient nature, which itself, upon attaining a completeness of development, transforms into sentient nature. So this first kind of completeness is development completeness that transforms insentient nature to sentient nature. And this happens as a natural course of destiny because that is what all the effort, motion, and result is moving towards. So that is the first achievement of completeness. And humans are made up of this one sentient unit along with the insentient body. And humans are also part of nature. So that is the first level of completeness, which is the completeness of the atom at the atomic level, where the incomplete insentient atom transforms into the complete sentient atom. In development progression, development in atom itself is constitutional completeness. In awakening progression, Awakening in deluded humans itself is activity completeness and conduct completeness. An awakened human nurtures righteous utilization and purposeful utilization through their work with less developed nature. It is natural for humans to have behavior with other humans and be responsible for glory towards those who are more awakened, and to practice, study, and contemplate for their further awakening. So here are the other two types of completeness. The first completeness is the completeness that occurs in the development progression, where the atom becomes constitutionally or configurationally complete to become sentient in nature. Then the next two kinds of completeness occur in humankind. In humans, which he's saying is the awakening of the human itself is the activity completeness and the conduct completeness. So these are the remaining two kinds of completeness that nature has been moving towards. And that is also the completeness of harmony at all levels. These are the three levels of completeness of harmony: configurational completeness, activity completeness, and conduct completeness, which will be discussed in much greater detail in the rest of the book. And these three types of completenesses are seen in the awakened human beings. And then what is it that an awakened human being looks like? So here he says the awakened human being is one who, with the less developed nature, they will practice righteous utilization and purposeful utilization. Yani, that is, with the less developed, they will put them to the use that they are meant to be in. For instance, with with other plants, with animals, and with material order. That is what they'll do. Whatever that plant is meant to do, whatever that animal is meant to do, we will use it for that. That is what the awakened human does with the less developed nature. With the equally developed nature, that is, with other human beings, the responsibility of the awakened human is to behave, which means that to behave with justice. So, with other humans, equally developed humans, the awakened human will behave with justice. But with those who are more developed than the awakened human, the responsibility of the awakened human is to have pride and glory towards and appreciation towards the more awakened. And if you have this sort of glory and appreciation for the greater, more awakened, then naturally you will practice and study and contemplate further for your own further awakening as well. So this is what the completeness at the level of human being will look like. Only deluded humans are independent while performing actions and dependent while experiencing their consequences. So here we talked about the awakened human previously, but what about humans that are not awakened? What is it that what defines them? How do we know what an unawakened human being is like? So an unawakened human being is a deluded human being, and what sets deluded human beings apart is the fact that we are independent in performing actions. That means we have free will. We can do whatever we want, but the consequences are definite. So we will be dependent while experiencing the consequences, dependent on natural laws of how things work out. And since we don't understand those laws, we are not awakened to them. We only basically suffer the consequences rather than achieve the consequences. So we do whatever we want, but the results are things that are out of our hands and that we need to that we are subject to in any case. Humans on this earth are in awakening progression. They have the opportunity, desire, and possibility of becoming completely awakened. The primary characteristic of awakened humans is being helpful to those who are less developed. So this is quite straightforward. We are currently in the progression of awakening. We are not yet awake, but we have the opportunity to be awakened. We have the desire, and there is the possibility of becoming completely awakened. And the primary characteristic, as was described above, is to be helpful to those who are less developed. So, for instance, Baba, who is awakened, his entire project in life was to help others reach the same state. So that is testimony to the fact that he's awakened. And to the extent that we become more and more developed, we also start finding that tendency within ourselves. That the more awakened you are, I mean, of course, here awakening is a very specific and definite milestone. But the closer you come towards that, the more you find this tendency within yourself to want to help others reach the same level. Because that is the characteristic of being humane. And humane is to be awakened humane. So, because he said to be helpful to those who are less developed, he's also provided the order of less to more developed. And the order is that I'll read it out first. Plant order is more developed than material order. Animal order is more developed than the plant order. Animalistic human or delusional knowledge order is more developed than the animal order. Demonic human of delusional order is more developed than delusional animalistic human. Humane human is more developed than delusional demonic human, and delusionless deific human is more developed than humane human. Divine human with complete awakening is more developed than deific human. So, this material order, plant order, animal order, animalistic human in the knowledge order, demonic human in the knowledge order, then the humane human, followed by the deific human, and finally by the divine human who is completely awakened. That is the order of development. Okay, I think I'll pause here for today.
I mean, I have no words to say. It's so wonderful, Drishta. Can you unshare the screen? Yeah, so that we can see you better. So I think it was simply wonderful. I have it was all the you really made it alive. I have noted down some 11 points, something that you are already talking to me about, but now I understand the context better and some of the inputs I am taking for revising the text as well. So I think very wonderful. I mean, it shows your understanding, dedication, and belief in this concept also, what we are doing, right? So you demonstrated that. So I will now open the floor for any questions for Drishta. So Astle or Spencer, how did you like this? It was communication happening properly. What is your view?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I don't have much to add. I think you said it very well, Rakeshji. That it's just a wonderful experience, and you've explained everything very nicely and broken it down very well. I don't have any questions. Of course, on my mind, I keep thinking that I need to also start preparing for my section. So my question is, how did you find your preparation and reading, and what was your process for this?
Yeah, that's a very relevant question, I think, for all of us. I was also trying to figure out how to go about it. And I think how I ended up doing it is I read the whole section in Hindi first to see how I make sense of it. And then on reading the whole thing in Hindi, I kind of compared it, started reading the English in along with it. And then I think the whole process that because I'm already involved in this translation in another book, I think that whole process of translation helps me make sense of what I'm understanding. So I actually started translating the Hindi for myself. Like initially, I started reading the translation that was available, but in order to understand it better, I felt like first I want to find my own translation, how it fits in my head. And then I also found that most of it matched, which is great. But for my own understanding of the content, I first just translated it in Hindi. And because when you have to translate, you have to pay attention to each, word that is used and why is it used here instead of there, and what is the implication of putting it in this way, and why has it been structured in this particular way. So all those questions arise when you have to make that decision of translating. But I know that's not going to be possible for you as much. But maybe the
No,
whole process of
fine. I just like to hear your process, and also you just did a wonderful job presenting, so I just like to learn.
thanks. Yeah, that's been my process. Well, I think in the process of translation, you have to keep asking. Very naturally, those questions emerge of why put it here? Why not put it this way? Because you have the option of what word to choose and which word order to choose to put it in. So, like every word, for instance, he says that omnipotence is mediative, and it is omnipresent. And then a few line down the line, he says, therefore, nature is in omnipotence or is within omnipotence. So why I say therefore over there? Like, what's the reason for saying therefore? Or what are those connectors and their relevances in that part of the sentence? I think those sorts of questions really help me pay more attention to why he might be saying what he's saying here in this much and not more.
Very
Wow.
nice.
Very nice indeed. Uh, Anyone else has any thing to ask or suggest? So,
Rakesh, Alok
हाँ
here.
जी, हाँ लोग.
I have nothing more to say, but I am at the awe of it that how beautifully it has been translated and how beautifully it has been kept. I was, I don't know how to say that. It is so beautifully translated. I mean, I have no words for that. So just congratulations to this whole process team and the way it has been done. It is setting a trend for us. I mean, to look up to. So congratulations to everybody whosoever has been the part of this process. Just that's the word. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alokji. Thank you indeed. This gives us a lot of validation, and I see that the language is something which is a collaborative thing. And so whatever we are doing, including this exercise, is actually will lead to its improvement, right? Whatever we are doing. Eventually, the idea is that we want to reach the state when it becomes the same level as if Babaji were to write in English, then what it would be. So that's the goal that we have actually set ourselves with. I know that it may be a far off uh, goal, but anything less than that would be less than that. Yeah. So that is what we are actually striving for. Let's see where we get. तो आज यहाँ पर रुकते हैं. In case there are no more things, we will next meet on the Saturday. So we will continue. Drishta will continue this session. There is she will be completing till chapter 1, right? So there is some little bit left in this section, and after that there is Kritagyata, and then that chapter on Sahastiktu. So I'm really looking forward to listening to her and joining this session on this Saturday. So thank you very much to all the people who joined here today and those who are going to listen to in the YouTube post as well. Namaste, everyone, and very good night.
Thank you. Namaste,
Namaste.
everyone. Thank you,
Namaste.
Drishta.
Namaste to everyone.
Namaste. Thank you, everyone.
Namaste
Thank
ji,
you,
namaste
everyone.
Shilpa.